Hi, everyone. Welcome to DIY Coven with Joanna and Amanda. My name's Joanna, and I am a coach who is working to bring a new paradigm of health and well being to the world, both through working with helpers and healers and working with people who are, um, working to bring full vitality to their physical body and their life. And I'm here with Amanda, who is a dating and love coach, and I can let you speak for yourself, Amanda, but you see the energetics of relationships so clearly and just bring such a refreshing perspective into how women who are, striving for really enjoying their life in all the areas of their lives, how they can really find fulfillment in relationships. So I don't know if you want to speak to that anymore, but I'd love for you to introduce our topic for today.
Thanks. That was actually perfectly well suited. Yeah, today we're going to talk about the idea of the realization that both of us had at different points that we were accidentally in a cult and we didn't realize it, and what we have taken away from that experience really, really broadly. This is probably going to be a number of other conversations. Um, but generally, I just want to start this out by saying while there's a lot of negative backstory and stereotypes about what cults are, I think it's really common for people to be in a cult like environment and not really realize it. And that having been through that, it's really, we both had our own individual experiences, but they were very similar in that we got what we took from that experience was exactly what we were looking for going into that experience, but not directly. It wasn't directly because of what we learned. It was as in what was provided to us directly, but what we learned from the experience. And I think it was an unconventional cult, and that's why we didn't realize what was going on.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, that is how we met in a group coaching program that was for like
Yeah, that was the cult, a group
it was
coaching program.
it was a group coaching program for like personal development and finding your power and standing in your power and not being a victim. And it was like this whole it I just wouldn't have thought that that was a cult. Anyway, so we reconnected, I don't know what, like a year or more after that had ended.
Yeah. Um, I want to say maybe we first reconnected in the early or mid spring of this year, kind of like a quick catch up. And
Yeah.
then we went back and forth about this, but you reached out maybe a couple months later and we started talking more regularly. And I think it's so interesting how this conversation about being accidental cult members has evolved because as we first started picking it apart, we were both like not ashamed about it, but I think because of the word cult feeling like it has such strong meaning, we were like, is that really what it is? But as we've talked about it, and you've even shared some things that you were reading today a little bit earlier, I think it's so important to talk about because it's the ideology that kind of, we self indoctrinated into that is what made this experience cult like. And I think many people in our society could identify with relating to whether it's people or groups in the same way. And I think that's why we want to, part of why we want to speak about it, because
Yep.
it might not be as obvious as what we think of as a cult.
So why did you get into this group coaching program, and how did you sense that this was more than a group coaching program and potentially a cult? Can you just talk about what that was like for you? So yeah, what were you looking for going in, and how did you know that, wait a minute, this was more than a group coaching?
My. So I connected to this group through like other mentors of mine. They were sharing some of this tool that we both were introduced to in this group, and I was curious about it. And once I started looking at the group and kind of seeing what was going on, I was telling you this, I guess, a week or two ago. I almost had the thought, like, this seems like the ultimate place to learn, and like I want to do well in this coaching realm. So I want to put myself in the best environment with the best people. And this seems like it. I guess I can look back and be a little bit proud of myself almost, because the way this group was marketed was that it was like the ultimate answer for so much, or like this was the ticket, this was the key. And why I say I'm proud of myself is I didn't think, and this is part of the marketing, but I didn't think I was like qualified enough to like didn't have enough experience, or I wasn't like strong enough in myself to be a part of it. But I decided, you know what? I don't care. I want to learn from the best. I want to do my best in this. So this is why I'm going to go into it. And what was sold was learning this tool that was kind of the ticket to living a life of where you really are in your full power. But it almost was like, it's the ticket to ease and things coming to you, like money and power in other ways. So there was this other part where it was like both mysterious and like intriguing, that power piece, which that is something I feel a little bit like, oh, okay, sorry, Joanna. But at the time, like I said, I'm like, you know what? I was trying to do what I thought was best for myself at the time. I was taking a leap. And as I was in the group, first of all, I was so excited that I was able to join. So that lasted for a little while. But I do remember having some doubts when I would see how people would.
Can I say?
Yeah.
I just keep cracking up in retrospect because I totally had the same thing. Like, so grateful that I made it in, that I was allowed to pay this woman a rather large sum of money to learn from her. Everything about, just in retrospect, thinking back, I was, I just find it hilarious that both of us were like, we were picked? Oh, we can pay you money? Thank you. Thank you for letting me pay you money.
Yeah. Disclaimer to anyone listening: the only qualification was if you were willing to pay the money. I
But
found out
that
later.
wasn't what they told later.
No.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
at the time, it was like, you have to have done this already or that. But exceptions were made after we got into the program. Like, clearly, exceptions were made to that. And clearly, the only criteria was, are you willing to pay?
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
everybody felt so like exclusive and proud. Anyway, continue.
So so as I was in the group, well, I guess as we were in the group, I
Yeah.
started seeing how people would interact with each other, and it was very judgmental. There's a culture of judgment, harsh judgment, berating each other, like mocking. And you could be quickly deemed unworthy of being in the group, not just for like asking a dumb, like I remember being overly concerned with how I might ask a question or say something because it could be judged or thought of as like so almost weak, but I'm sure the term would be like victimy, or in shadow, coming from shadow. Um, but oh, go
When
ahead.
was it that, do you look at that like you could be kicked out at any moment as a sign that you were in a cult? And if so, when did you pick up on that and connect the two?
I do look on that as a sign because the culture was such that there was primarily one person that could deem you worthy or not of being in the group. It was a very harsh environment, and everyone else would rally around you know, this person, and everyone else was fearful that they might be kicked out. I did not look, so it wasn't until I finally left that I was fully honest with myself about all these things. I knew I didn't like that. And I remembered thinking that the leader, I'm like, who I'll call the leader, I'm like, I don't really like, I don't, I don't like relating to people like that. I don't like that this is the feel of the group, but she really knows what she's doing. And I really want to be a part of this group. So like I kept overriding these parts of myself that are like, but this isn't how you operate, and this isn't what you value, and this isn't who you are. But I was able to brush that away. Um, do you want to speak to that at all before I share how I finally left? And you can tell your own version of the story too, but I don't know.
Right. Just that, like, very quickly after I like connected all the dots, I was like, how fucked up was this experience? This is how I knew I was in a cult, because it was like I realized I had been like completely indoctrinated without even realizing it. You know, we were told things like speak the truth, not even your truth, the truth. And yet there was a constant fear of being kicked out if what you said was like, if you disagreed too much, or if you questioned too much, or if you went to other people for
Mm,
answers. Like, she was the ultimate and only, and you weren't allowed to go to other. Like, this sounds so crazy to talk about now, because I would like, of course, this sounds. Why on earth would you get into it? Um, but anyway, the idea of like you're learning there ostensibly to you're in that group to learn how to speak the truth, the ultimate truth always, and yet careful what you say.
yeah.
We went in there and we were told it was all about claiming and standing in and standing for and standing by your power and who you truly are, except you have to submit fully to the leader and you cannot ever question her.
Mm-hmm.
It was, we were learning a tool that allowed us to trust and know our intuition at all times. And yet there were so many weird things that I deliberately did not question because of the previous two things that I just shared, like the fear of being kicked out when I needed this so bad, the fear of not being like chosen or being part of this group. What would I be like without this group?
Yeah.
Like, don't adhere to society's expectations of you. You are your own true individual. You are, never fear being ostracized or kicked out. And yet it was like a constant fear of being kicked out of this group. It was insane. Anyway, I had something very similar. Like, now I can look at how screwball and distorted and manipulative that situation was. But I had originally like asked you why you got into it. Like, what was it that you really wanted to learn from this? Like, why on earth would you do all this stuff? It sounds like what I just said. Why would I choose to be in this group? Like, I know why I did it. I'm really curious. What were you exactly looking for?
So I had started my own business and was seeing like, you know, steady, but what I was viewing as slow, quote unquote, success. And I was like, okay, like I just outsourced my belief in myself to someone else. I'm like, this person knows everything. If I can learn from them, that's the ticket.
Yeah.
Then I will be successful. So yeah, I thought the only way I could be successful at the time was learning what someone else had to tell me, or what someone else could teach me, what someone else knew.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and I so believed, here's another contradiction. I so believed in myself and my business, as I still do, that I was willing to do that for myself, but I didn't see that it was this outsourcing, or was giving up of myself. I didn't see that at the time.
Right. So when did you kind of come to this conclusion? Was it after you left this coaching program and you just kind of got, I guess how you don't have to go into how you left, but well,
I will speak to how I left because
yeah, how'd you leave?
I went further into the program as you did. So we first, both of us signed up for the, we both signed up for this initial training and then continued to seek coaching. So I
Ding
started
ding.
working.
Another sign of being in a cult. There's always something more to buy and another level to achieve. And often you have to spend money or give more of yourself to do so. Just perhaps we should put these in like little titles
Notes. Yeah,
with this, like sign two that you might be in a cult or a cult-like group. There's no end to the next level. You
yeah,
still have so much to learn. Okay, so yes, you
exactly.
you signed up for more. You were given the opportunity to pay them more money. Uh-huh.
Exactly. And I, same mindset that I went in with it which was I want to go for, like, I am in this for my success, quote unquote, and still thinking that this group was the key to success. So signed on to work with one of the other like top tier people. So there's also a hierarchy and people that are, um, you know,
Ding ding.
yeah, given like a new title and elevated to a new position. So that was also coveted, maybe you'd one day. Anyway, so sign up to work with this person. And luckily, I was becoming more and more sure of myself in some ways through this learning. And at one point, they tried, the group changed something about my coaching container that I didn't appreciate. Like, it kind of seemed like they made a mistake and it was on me to kind of just accept that they made a mistake that they were now correcting. And I was like, that doesn't sit right with me. So I kept pushing back. And I remember having a conversation with this coach, and they kept asking me why, what was so wrong, like what bothered me about this? Like, this was a shadow. This is a problem in me that I'm reacting this way. Why would I push back? This is something wrong in me. Let's dive more into what's wrong in me that it's making me have this reaction. And I'm like, I am not playing into this. I know I'm not okay with this. There doesn't need to be more, like, we don't need to go into any more than I'm not okay with this and I want to, rectify it. So anyway, this this exchange wasn't even my ultimate leaving, because the head person of the group, as I was like, you know what, I'm done here. Thank you. I don't want to be in this coaching relationship anymore. The main person came in and was like, so sorry this happened. I'll rectify it. And because I had paid so much money, I ignored that strong part of myself that's like, thank you, I'm ready to exit, and was like, you know what? I'll see this through. Maybe it will be different. I did pay this money. I'll give it a chance. And I was completely overwhelmed. I mean, underwhelmed as I saw that through. And I think sent enough, like, I kept wavering. I sent another message to the head person saying I was not happy, and again was made to feel wrong, but I trusted her more. I trusted her the most. She knew best. So I took her word that time. And I was also in a group with two other people who had the same perspective, like, this main person knows best. So when I looked to them for feedback, they all were kind of like, well, if she said this. So dismiss myself again. That container ended. I left. And I'll wrap this up, but there was a period of time where I was just kind of confused and not feeling sure of myself. So I'm like, what just happened? And I could kind of see I didn't stand for myself at the end there. And it's just over time and in talking it through with you and other people that were part of this group that I'm like, and my own learning, like, I just started seeing things clearly. For a while I still was in the Facebook group, and then one day I'm like, no, I'm cutting this. Like, I still had this little thread where I still was like, well, I'm connected and I want to know what's going on. And I just started being honest with myself, really, and standing for myself and knowing that I was ultimately worth it and that my success would come from me.
So you went in to know how to be successful, to like get a formula for success, and you stepped out like, I know I can be successful. My success comes from me.
Well, and just that like self-assuredness, like
Yeah.
that's probably the most I ever stood for myself was in those, in comparative situations. I'm seeing this person as a an authority figure, and I
Mm-hmm.
know what's at risk if I stand up for myself, and yet I still was like, no. Those experiences helped me to really feel how strong I was. So yes, I thought this was the ticket to power and success, and it was not as I expected the ticket to that, but I found that in myself anyway through this experience.
Yeah.
And I'm curious, as you said, I know we've had similar experiences, but we both took different paths to finding this group and to exiting. So would you share, how you found this group and what drew you to it and why you and what you remember from that period of your life?
Yeah. So I was in, I had found this woman who was very charismatic because she wrote an article about masculine and feminine energy. So I looked at her stuff and I watched a whole bunch of her YouTube videos, and she was more of a business coach. And I, at the time, didn't have a business. And what I did have was what I thought was a lifelong career with the U.S. government that is like secure, you never leave it. But I was incredibly unhappy and increasingly incapable of doing my doing my job, and really started to hate life. And I didn't know it at the time, but I was like having a nervous breakdown. So I kept finding a lot of solace in her empowerment and her perspective of like really understanding your own intuition and knowing and like being doubtless. Um, and while she was talking about it for business stuff, like this is how you make money, this is how you market, um, the like the themes of it were very, very compelling. And um, yeah, I mean, I remember like on my way to therapy and like just crying and then listening to one of her videos and being like, I can do this. Absolutely. It's about integrity. Like it really did help me quite a lot. And it took me a while before I decided to like pay any money to her, but this group program came up, and I was like, it is time for me to do some scary stuff. And she had this approach of like confronting fear and busting through and doing it anyway, and like this like really strong warrior energy of this unconcern for what people might think or do, being true to yourself, and standing for what you know is true and doing it. And and at the time, I was very, very weak. I did not know how to take care of myself. I was collapsing after years of hating my career. I knew I needed to leave, but I was too afraid to, the ultimate, for me, it felt like the ultimate scary thing of leaving a secure, lifelong job that paid very, very well. And that was actually pretty like easy, actually. So like it was very easy for me to do. Um, but I hated it. And so I really wanted to join this program to learn this tool that she talked about, that was about conquering all of your fears and uh, speaking the truth and standing in your power and always knowing your intuition and having a life that you can like magically on demand create the things that you want in it, and have a life of like wealth and health and love, like the whole shebang. And all you needed was this one tool. And now I can laugh at it and I can see this a mile away, like, oh, all I need is one magic pill. But at the time, all I wanted was one magic pill. I wanted one person, one way, one thing, one narrow view, except you can't have a narrow view to have a giant perspective. But anyway, I was absolutely convinced that I needed to do this, that she had the answers because she had risen from um, mental health collapse, from financial ruin, from almost losing everything in her life. And she had had wild, almost instantaneous success, or at least that was her story.
Hmm.
But I actually think like that's what the timeline. I mean, she had left out what she had done previously or her innate natural gifts and skills that allowed her to do this. But she she turned everything around and had this like really magnificent change in her life, and it was like really awe inspiring.
Hmm.
And I needed something to believe in because I didn't believe in myself. And I needed someone to be stronger than me because I felt very weak. And I needed someone to tell me what to do because I didn't know what to do. And not only did I not know what to do, I couldn't make a decision. I couldn't stand for any one thing. I kept taking 3 months off of work and then going back and just doing the worst possible job and crying in my office every day and then taking more time off. Like I was stuck and really, really at a very low point. And she promised this, like, not just rising from the ashes story and experience, but a complete transformation and flip of all the things that I thought were problems into this incredible life of genius and wealth and abundance and badassery.
Yeah, she was very
So,
artistic with her words.
yeah, she's a very intelligent woman. She was really well read. She had a background in philosophy, which, I really appreciated. So I was really drawn in. And I didn't realize because I just wanted to know, ultimately, I wanted to know how to trust myself. Ultimately, I wanted to know how to like know what to do and do it.
Right.
And so I did this program and, I'm not throwing out all of her teachings or all of her techniques or even the tool that she taught us, but it was coded like COATED and CODED with this like weird manipulation where it was ultimately about her. And we were just people in her universe. We weren't real to her. And I sensed that, and it compelled me to try harder to impress her. It was a
Hmm.
very, like, I felt it was like a diamond spider web of like this glistening, beautiful thing. But I didn't realize that I was being trapped because I thought it was just like, all I could see was the glimmer and glamour.
Yeah.
And I couldn't see that I was in a spider web. Um, so I don't think that everything that she taught us was like evil, or I don't even think it was intentional. But after the program, I then continued to buy. I was like, I have to learn more. I don't know this well enough. I'm not stable yet. Um, and, I kept trying different programs. And eventually I was like, I started my own business. It was very helpful. Like I did quit my job. I did start like a coaching business of my own. Um, and for that, I'm really grateful um, because I don't know how I would have done it on my own. It could have gone really bad. And so having like that support of people who are like, do it, do it, do it, walk away, just do it. You know you need to, so do it, was really helpful. And a few months later, I was still with this group, still paying them so much money that I didn't have, and and I was training to be like a consultant for them, to work for them. Here is another sign that you're in a cult or like a wacky MLM, which I think have a lot of overlaps, is that I was like paying them money to prove that I'm good enough. And that they ultimately would tell me when I was good enough. I was like, was I ever going to be told that I was good enough? Anyway, so it all ended when one of the other people in leadership was like, I'm out of here. And as soon as she said that, something just clicked, like the cognitive dissonance ended. It was really immediate. It was like, oh, she's leaving. Oh my God, I'm done. Like, it was like, I just needed one moment where someone or something like just had a little bit of a glitch or like a lightning strike or like a skipped record so that I could get out of my daze and like not and see that I was in a spider web, not like a sparkly, delightful wonderland. I could see it. Oh God, what have I done? And I realized like I've been searching for people to tell me what to do when, and I've been doing that. I know I've been searching to know what to do. And what I've been doing is looking to people to tell me what to do.
Yep.
There's a really fine line between a coach that's just telling you what the fuck to do because that's what she wants you to do and what's best for you and what is it truly coming from you.
Hmm.
And she was definitely the former.
Yeah.
Did she know? I don't know, but she was very convincing and convicted in herself of what she was saying. So it just kind of like sharply, just like I just woke up to like, oh fuck, oh, I was in a cult. Like as soon as all of this happened, I identified it. I was like, I'm in a cult. And I talked to, I remember like the next day I said to Mr. Special, like, oh my God, I was in a cult. And he said, yeah, I know. I was there. And I was like, why didn't you say anything? And he said, because I knew you'd figure it out. You'd get out of it. Which, in a way, was also really beautiful because it was like I went in again to know how to trust myself, to fearlessly do things on my, like, to know how to know what to do without somebody telling me what to do. And he, you know, probably without thinking about it, he was like just observing me, making sure everything was okay, knowing that ultimately I would figure it out, which was a beautiful testament to his faith in me and his respect for me. So at first I was a little stunned, but I was really grateful. So because it was like we both knew it, that I already know what to do. I already know how to trust myself. Like I
Yeah.
already have this. And he knew
Yeah.
it too. And I knew it, but I wasn't like really living it. Like I wasn't really claiming it for myself. So the thing that I went in for is actually what I got out of it, but not directly because of what I was taught, not directly because of this magic tool, not directly because of the strength of this leader and her compelling, charismatic, mystical web that she wove, but ultimately it was because it was such a trial by fire. It was so intense that afterwards, that's when the treasure chest opened. And I was like, oh my God, I learned all this shit in there. And I have this
Right.
tool that, maybe one day is useful. But not, it's not the one thing in the world. The one thing in the world was I found the true treasure. And as hokey as it sounds, the treasure was like, I can always, always trust myself. I have
Hmm.
totally got this. I went in there looking to know how to trust myself, and I left knowing how to trust myself. I left with tens of thousands of dollars in debt, um, a lot less friends. Like there was a lot of
I was
fallout because of
I
it.
was gonna bring that up actually. Um,
Another sign you know you're in a cult. People
exactly
who
how I
have
was
known
gonna
you
frame it.
forever are like, I don't recognize you and I don't know who you are right now, so I'm gonna back off.
But I was thinking of it as you talked about Mr. Special because I was gonna say another reason. You're in a cult. The people around you can see it. And I think what was cool about your experience, and we've related on this as well, is that, you know, someone else might have come and been like, Amanda, don't you see? Like, get out of here. And I know if someone came in and tried to tell me that, I would have been pretty self-righteous and like, you don't understand. Like, I would invalidate them and not necessarily
Right.
see this person really cares about me and they're just expressing that. So it is really nice that, yes, while some relationships might have fallen away, that there also was someone that could see you through it. Like, okay, this is, what Amanda's exploring right now, but I know her and this isn't going to be forever. And, he might have spoken up another time, but yeah, it just,
Yeah.
I just wanted to touch on that because there is something to be said for, maybe you do need to distance yourself from someone who is like us and was accidentally in a cult. And you can also and you can also say, they're figuring it out for themselves and I'll be here when they have or when they're ready to stand for
Yeah.
themselves.
Uh, yeah. Yeah. So I want to say three things. One, another sign that you're in a cult is other people around you are like, something is definitely off with her, and they distance themselves to some degree. Another sign that you're in a cult is that if anybody had said something to us, I know, and you just said it, I would have been like, you are wrong, and I am right, and I know it, and it is the truth, and I am living the truth, and you don't know the truth, you poor, poor person. I would have pitied them and viewed them as like, see, that's what I used to be like.
Yes, there's definitely we're once we didn't speak to this at the
Yeah,
time, but once we were in, everyone else was out. And
yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah.
And then the last thing is, uh, yeah, just ultimately, like Mr. Special, you're absolutely right. He stayed with me and he was just sort of like observing, but he knew who I was. And that was actually really reaffirming, and not like I needed reaffirming, but like it was very, it was really beautiful. I was really touched by it. But anyway, this isn't about me. This is special. Uh,
That'll be for a later episode. But
right. But, mhm.
I think I think we actually probably have more we can unpack here. And we were talking about how this is our experience, but we can now see this experience happening in all of these other ways in the world right now. And that's why we want to speak about
Oh
it.
yeah.
And so, as we were saying earlier, I think maybe we'll bring other people that were in this cultish group on to talk about their experience, or maybe, just consider this from other perspectives, because yes, this is our very specific experience to us. And
Yeah.
I think if a large majority of people kind of zoomed out from their lives, they might see how they're relating to things in a similar way. And um, we've we have not only learned what standing for ourselves is and how to do that and how to ultimately trust ourselves and see our own self-worth, but also now I know, I can sense that dynamic, and now I better know what I'm looking for when I do want support or community. And that's part of why we're starting DIY Coven is, what
Exactly.
is a community without an agenda, and what is a community that is there for the growth and support of everyone that's a part of it. So I wanted to speak to that, and I'll let you maybe close with a couple of your thoughts on our
No,
group.
that's I think we've come up with a few definitions of what DIY Coven is, and I think that was just perfect what you just said. Like we wanted a group without agenda, for ourselves and for other people. And specifically having been through this experience where if you want this kind of support, if you want change, if you want like a group of powerful women around you, you have to pay for it.
Yeah, pay
You
for it
just
with
submit.
more than money. Pay for it with your um like the only thing coming to me right now is like you're bowing down, your submission, your agreement to this other person. And um yeah, that's not
Mm-hmm.
that's not an energy exchange that engenders empowering all people in the group. So
No, no.
so
Yeah, that was, I think that was beautifully put. And this is such a rich topic looking through our experience in this kind of, I've called it a crucible, a trial by fire. It was such an intense experience that I did not know I was signing up for, and I am forever grateful for it. Like it was an experience where I learned so much. Like I said, the treasure chest opened after I was in it, and and I wonder if that's the experience of a lot of people who realize that they've been in a cult and have stepped away. I think like you don't join a cult as much as you just like kind of
find
slide into
yourself in.
it. Yeah, and and those that step away, like it's really hard. It really screws with you because you go into it feeling so needing like an authority figure, needing answers. There's a difference between having this curiosity and this quest for personal development or spiritual growth or just change in your life, and then this like need because of absolute and utter lack in one's own life. And that is very dangerous because it's really quite easy to be like, oh, someone is more powerful than me. I will follow that person. And I didn't think of myself as gullible. I didn't think of myself, I thought of myself as like, and I still do, like, I'm a super intelligent, really overly educated person.
And you've
And
said like how just you actually value your discernment, and you actually see that
oh,
that's
yeah.
like you have a high level of discernment in 99.999% of situations. And personally, like I'm very, I'm loosening, but traditionally I've been, reasonable, logical.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think both of us have said we would not have expected ourselves to find ourselves in this situation. And I've described it as like I shot forward through
Yeah.
like what might have taken me years to figure out. It was like I got tossed out the other side.
Oh, yeah. It was
And
expeditious.
very expeditious.
Like, we wanted to find the answers. We wanted to
Now.
learn how to trust ourselves. We wanted to learn how to stand for ourselves. We wanted to learn to take charge in our lives. We wanted to learn how to, like, know what to do, know how to get support. And
Oh, we
it
did.
didn't, it, it, because we learned that we had it within us. And then there was like this process of rebuilding that I think is still going on. And that's why we're having this conversation. Anyway.
Anyway, if anyone has their own experience they want to share, please reach out to us. If anything is relating to, or if you have any, questions, if you're starting to
Yeah.
question your own scenario that you might be in. Like I said, we're going to talk about this further, but wanted to share our experience. We thought it's valuable for people to hear and to talk about, for us to talk about.
Yeah. All right.
Great. We'll see you next time. Thanks, Amanda.
Bye.
Bye.